All right, guys, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the first soldier at Ever Crisis. If you guys are watching this, don't forget we have a part 1, and definitely check that out, link in the description. And don't forget also to like and subscribe. On to the news.
All right, so let's start off with a pretty interesting announcement. So Final Fantasy VII is cashing in on the whole battle royale craze that's been happening lately with Final Fantasy VII: The First Soldier,
Final Fortnite 7.
Fortnite Fantasy Remake.
Fortnite Fantasy 7. When we heard, to give some backstory, we found out like a month or two ago that Square Enix had trademarked Ever Crisis, which everyone thought was very likely because their naming convention thus far had been Advent Children AC, Before Crisis BC, Crisis Core CC, Dirge Service was DC, and Ever Crisis is EC.
That's
First
interesting.
Soldier is going to be FS. But we found out about this trademark, and everyone was like, oh, cool. They're going to do a Sephiroth prequel game, and they copyrighted the Shinra logo without any text, which we found out which we now know is for this, and we know the First Soldier and Ever Crisis, that ended up being a real thing. We're getting both of these. But everyone thought this was going to be a Sephiroth game, and it's not. It's Final Fortnite 7.
Yeah, a lot of people were speculating a possible a Crisis Core remake or remaster or something like that.
That's what we thought Ever Crisis would be. Yeah,
that's what I thought too. Yeah,
it's interesting. The story is going to be about like the origins of Soldier. That's kind of interesting.
It looks like it's going to be taking place primarily on Midgar. I'm guessing it takes place like a long time, like before like the main story.
They say in the trailer 30 years before.
Right.
And so, you can see young Rufus Shinra. Or not young Rufus Shinra, young President Shinra.
Yes, he's the one standing in the window, right?
Yeah. And we actually are able to see his face. It's reflected in the glass. Which a cool little detail.
Yeah.
You can see what he looks like as he
ray tracing, baby. Ray tracing.
Ray tracing. Yeah, Nomura said the story isn't very dense because it's a battle royale game.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that it's going to give that kind of backstory.
My concern is if it's a battle royale game, I wonder how much support it will get, because if you guys recall, they've been doing a lot of stuff in terms of like different things. Like we had that MMO game for, I think it was
yeah, it was Comrades.
Is that even being supported? Like, is there by playing that?
Well, that wasn't a separate game per se. Like that was, if you bought the season pass of 15, you got this as like an expansion.
Yeah.
Like I don't think they ever sold. I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't think Comrades was ever sold as its own thing.
Well, it was free, so it's not like you couldn't like buy. But and that's kind of like with this battle royale game. Like, are we going to have like a Fortnite thing where you have like season 1, season 2, season 3? Like, how long are they going to support it? Like servers, like I feel like this is going to be. It's like a short term, I guess, cash cow in the battle royale craze, and that's exactly how like we feel, or other people may feel of this. Get this game really.
That's an interesting point you bring up about cash. So is there going to be microtransactions in the game? Like
it has to be. If it's free, then they're gonna cash in like like equipment, weapons, iconic weapons.
They've gone for mobile only. Like I know there's like a phone version of Fortnite and PUBG. Why isn't there? It's weird that there's no console version of.
Well, you know why? I think it's because it's easier to, easier to grab. It's also easier. It's already linked to your bank account versus like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's just easier in general, like in terms of having a sit-down couch playing on a console or PC.
So I'm assuming it's gonna have the same type of rules as a battle royale. It's gonna be like last man standing. I think they also mentioned there's gonna be team games as well, so it could be like last team standing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so similar to like. Go ahead.
there's solo and trio battles, and the winner is going to be the last person standing or the last team remaining.
Right.
Yeah, so
That's the way
it's
to
it's
say it.
similar to like Call of Duty Battle Royale, where basically you have a squad of like 4 people, and that 4 people will be the last team survival. Obviously, if you have one person left in the team to survive, the whole team wins. So I'm sure that's the same kind of concept, as well as the last person standing for the entire group of people. So
Right.
Isn't it really cool how? Because I mean, look, I don't really play battle royales, but I'm pretty sure it's only like player versus player, right? There's no like third obstacle, is there? We see like the Scorpion Sentinel is an enemy you can fight in it, and apparently, like, I don't think that's like controlled by the players. I think they put the
you're saying there's like NPCs. They're like sort of like AI enemies.
that are like monsters from Final Fantasy
maybe.
VII that are also in there to fight.
Well, the thing is, keep in mind that it's a Final Fantasy game. So Final Fantasy is a role playing game. So they have to include role playing elements to a battle royale. So you might need.
They said that it's like to experience real, because this is the plot of it is, well, it's soldier training. So this is like for them having to experience like a realistic situation of, well, you might be on the field fighting another army, but what if like a bunch of robots come down that you also have to fight?
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's so cool.
From the sound of it, it doesn't sound that much different from like League of Legends or Dota. So there's like
maybe it's like a mix of both.
Yeah, because there's like a PvP element, but you also have to kill like AI to level up and gain experience. So maybe it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I would imagine too, like by destroying these enemies or killing these enemies, whatever, you can actually level up your weapon that you have, or maybe change out the weapons that are in the map that you can find. And upgrade, because that's similar to like Fortnite and Call of Duty, where they have like the elite weapons, and that's where it comes back to microtransactions, where people can buy these elite weapons so they can, like, I guess, kind of do better during these matches.
Well, I feel like most microtransactions is all going to be like cosmetic, though. I feel like they'd get so much backlash if there was like a pay to win element to the transaction.
Maybe.
A lot of their mobile games do have that, and the level of how much it jumps can be insane. Like with Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, if you were free to play, you struggled.
Yeah, so like and same thing with Call of Duty. Like there's elite weapons that you can get that makes it a little bit easier during one-to-one combat. But if you go straight to a battle royale, you start out with no weapon. You try to find a weapon, but there's certain modes where you can actually use the weapon that you have equipped.
Yeah.
What I think is kind of cool is I think in like the trailer you see them like casting magic spells, but I think somebody casts like a wind spell, so a player that's like further ahead is like able to jump higher on top of a building or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that too.
That happens.
I saw that too. Yeah. So
that's kind of cool that like they're incorporating magic and stuff like that.
Yeah, so like the magic isn't just like do damage, right? Like there's like some utility to it, so you can boost up players to like higher ground or something.
That's pretty cool.
Or speed up people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like haste to speed up people. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that could be kind of cool, because it's kind of like that's like something from 14 almost.
Yeah, like there's different classes. Like there's like a class that's more supportive and more that's like one is more damage based.
I think that at first it will be okay, but it's honestly it's not gonna last very long. I feel like it's maybe after 2-3 months, the active player rate is gonna drop tremendously, unless they do something in terms of patching and upgrading and doing these season 2, season 3, whatever, and spicing it up and adding more story. I don't know if they will or not, but I think this is just going to be one of those things where people are just going to jump in and then quickly jump right back out.
Yeah, because like with like the Kingdom Hearts phone game, for example, like that is still updating its story. Like that is the thing to go back for, is, oh well, There's new story quests every month or every 3 months. With a battle royale game, I'm not sure how you, because that has like a mission. It's like you do like a couple of missions, which are like little story segments. Go kill this.
I mean,
enemy,
they could do
get a
something.
cutscene.
They can do something, yes, but I think it's like so minor, like because they don't want to affect the lore of what's happening. Then again, it's 30 years before the events of Final Fantasy, so you have some wiggle room in there. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's weird how they're going to do it. I know they said the stories are going to be dense, so I don't know. Like when this releases, I just feel like the entire story is already going to be there. I don't feel like they're going to be like, oh, come back next month and get the next chapter.
Yeah.
Well, like that kind of
Fortnite does that though. Like they have like seasons,
really?
right? Seasons 1, season 2.
They do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then they incorporate some sort of story. So maybe they could. Like, what I'm interested in is like the influx of new players that it might attract. Like, you know, it's possible it'll attract like a whole ton of non-Final Fantasy fans, like maybe like fans of Battle Royale style games.
I agree. But yeah, like I feel like this is very a niche. Like I feel like those who like Final Fantasy probably won't play this. Like heavy, like hardcore Final Fantasy fans probably won't like this. But those who like Battle Royale games may try it, but they just don't like Final Fantasy.
Yeah, but can you imagine someone like Shroud or Ninja streaming Final Fantasy 7? Like, I mean, Final Fantasy 7 First Soldier. You know, like this might be like the next big Twitch thing, for all we know.
Yeah, I made a joke in our chat last night. Remember the joke I made in our chat last night of, oh, they're finally throwing us RPG streamers a bone.
Yes, exactly.
Call of Duty fans got COD Mobile.
Yeah, exactly. So now us Final Fantasy fans have, you know, something to stream.
Yeah, that we can get a big audience.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if this generates any traction.
Yeah, my only thing with it is, I just think they should release it on consoles as well. I just think releasing it as a mobile game, it's like you said, it means
it does.
Stop
honestly, if they really want like massive support, it should be PC and mobile. Those are the big two markets. Console, yes, but I feel like PC and mobile are the bigger audience. If they really want to make a splash in the Battle Royale scene.
Yeah.
Did you notice the graphics of it?
Yeah, the graphics weren't impressive.
It was pretty basic. Yeah.
Well, what I mean is,
you're talking about the assets. You're talking about the assets.
Yeah, the models and the assets are Crisis Core. They're using the Crisis Core assets in it from the PSP.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
Interesting.
It's like they're reusing a good bit of what they can.
Maybe that's the reason why they won't put it on PC or console. They feel like they might need to put in more resources into it, and maybe it's just something they don't want to do. So they just want to reuse older assets and put it on mobile, which might be able to run it, you know, fairly easily.
Yeah, true.
How about this for a theory? Okay, so Nomura at one point in this interview, the translator of it, they said it seems like he's not writing out the idea of HD remasters out of the question of the compilation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if what they're going to do is, now we know that they have the Crisis Core assets, they're safe, they haven't lost them on a hard drive or something, and they're using them on a project. What if they work on a remaster of these actual compilation titles, and they just, when they're done with the First Soldier app, dump that in the bin and stick it in as like an extra thing on Crisis Core Remastered? Maybe not even like have it as like a multiplayer game at that point, and just have it as like missions to go through to just get that like quick bit of story.
So you're
saying they're using the same assets for both.
So you're saying it should be what Comrades was to Final Fantasy 15. It was just like an add-on to like Crisis Core Remastered or something.
Yeah, like maybe that's why they're using the same assets. Is they plan to, once they're done the app, we'll throw out a remaster, get an extra bit of bang for buck, and we'll just throw this on. And it's like, oh, you're getting First Soldier and Crisis Core, or you get like that's part of the HD collection or whatever they do.
Oh, that would be interesting. I mean, I feel like people will buy it because ever since the remake, people have been wanting to. Well, first off, Crisis Core is only available for the PSP, right?
Yeah, and they had rights issues with that. They had rights issues with the earlier Kingdom Hearts games and with Crisis Core because of the licensed music. Kingdom Hearts uses Utada. Crisis Core uses a song called Why.
Yeah,
and the rights issues. A lot of people say there might be rights issues with Gact, who's Genesis.
Yeah, his appearance, I think, was
yeah.
I heard that too.
I've never been able to find a source on that. I'd love to, if anybody has it, please send it to me because I really want to actually read into that more. But what we do know is that Crisis Core wasn't put up for download on PSP, on like the PSN store, similar to like when Birth by Sleep came out on the PSP. That never came out on the PSN store as a download because of the licensed music in it. The music companies wouldn't let them release those games, so you could only get a physical copy of it. So that's the weird limbo Crisis Core's in, is you can only play it if you actually own a PSP and a physical copy of the game.
Right.
Or else you can pirate it.
yeah. So, like, I mean, if they ever, like, resolve that issue, people would want Crisis Core on, whatever, mobile or, Steam or something like that. So,
yeah. So that could be where this is going. And like you said, Talos, that's why they're only putting it on mobile. They know that player base is gonna, and then just slip it into the HD collection.
Let's move on to Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. Now, this is a pretty interesting one. It's pretty much
another type of remake, is the way they advertise it.
Exactly. So it looks like classic Final Fantasy VII in like newer graphics. They're also incorporating the other Final Fantasy spin-offs, like Before Crisis, Dirge of Cerberus, and Advent Children is also getting like its own chapter.
This one I actually do like as an announcement. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm not sure if you guys remember Pocket Edition Final Fantasy 15.
I do.
Yeah. And they originally released that. They announced it only for mobile, and once all the chapters came out, they put it on Switch. And I think they're going to do the same thing with this. But the art style of like the chibis reminds me of like on the field reminds me of that, or it reminds me of that of Pocket Edition.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they brought on a new artist to do the drawings. There's a lot of 2D art in it. Her name is Fujise Lisa. Okay. She was working on some other project and with Nomura, and she came to them one day and was like, "Hey, look, I can help out with this Final Fantasy VII." So they've had her on both projects, which is pretty good.
So is this like a retelling of classic Final Fantasy VII, or is it a retelling of the remake? So this is going to be a remake of the remake?
What I think it's going to be, so as we know, Final Fantasy VII Remake deviates, right? It's starting to deviate away from the original story, and people are mad that it's deviating.
So to appease the hardcore fans, they made this.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because tell me, what would you tell me right now? What are the two things that people complain about with Final Fantasy VII Remake? The two big things. One of them we already said was the story change. What's the other big thing?
The combat they changed.
There you go. I was about to pick up the controller and be like, yeah, they changed the battle system is real-time action. Everyone always gives out, why isn't it turn-based? Why isn't it turn-based? This is the answer, I think. This is how Square Enix is gonna respond. Because originally they were like, you want to play original Final Fantasy VII? We have it on every system. Just play the original. then there's people going, yeah, but I don't like the graphics. So this way they're going, okay, here's a nicer coat of paint on the original. And then when you're in battles, it's the remake graphics, which is cool. And it's turn-based gameplay.
Interesting.
So this is what I think is their answer to people complaining. Like just bitching and moaning about the remake is, okay, here
to be honest,
you want a remake with nicer graphics and you want turn-based? Boom, game.
So another interesting thing to point out is that the game isn't exactly like chronological. Like you can select chapters individually. Like if you want to play the the Dirge of Cerberus chapter, you can just pick Dirge of Cerberus or Before Crisis. But it says here they're planning on adding chapters every month, so this is going to be like an episodic format.
And the one thing that they were saying, because they've said, so you have like a chapter for every game of the compilation. They're adding in they're adding into like the story mode of this as well, the First Soldier. So if you don't want to play First Soldier, you can just go and play this to get that story.
Yeah,
that's true.
Which I think is interesting.
Yeah, because like we talked before, not everyone's gonna like battle royales, but people that like battle royales are probably not gonna like Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're also getting Nojima, who wrote the original Final Fantasy VII. He wrote an entire Sephiroth backstory as like a new story mode that we're going to get in this, which I think is really cool.
Now, what do you guys think about the art style, like the graphics? Like, are you for it? It seems to be like some sort of chibi looking thing, and I feel like that's going to be pretty.
It's divisive for sure, but it comes down to like, if you ever played where's that one Final Fantasy game?
You talking about them when
World of Final Fantasy?
World of Final Fantasy, yeah.
Yeah, so like it kind of reminds me of that, and I didn't really mind it too much. It was adorable, it's cute, but what really made that game for me was the story behind it. So as long as they keep a good, interesting story, like I don't mind too much of the design aspect of it. And obviously, like I have a few cheapies somewhere floating around the house, so I don't mind it too much personally.
Yeah. In the original Final Fantasy VII, the polygon models are all deformed.
Yeah,
if the people are going to be playing this or the hardcore Final Fantasy VII fans, it should be okay with them, right?
Yeah, but we need to specify that's only for the overworld. Is you're only getting that style of graphics.
Yeah.
When it's in battle, it is the remake graphics, and I think what's really cool about this, what I think is really cool is this could be how we see other areas from like part 2 and maybe further on. This could be how we see those before those even come out, because like we in the trailer it shows the Scorpion Sentinel battle, and it just looks like FF7 remake. Yeah. One thing to point out is this is the first time that in the West is ever going to see Before Crisis' story. We never got that before. And we're getting it in this kind of graphic style, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned earlier about hardcore fans not liking Final Fantasy VII Remake, the combat, the changes in the story. Now, I know a couple of people were complaining about like how they changed voice actors. So let's talk about the voice acting in this game. You think they're going to record like new lines or whatever, or they're going to keep it text only? Or if they are going to record, do you think they'll use like the classic voice actors or the remake voice actors?
Good point.
Well, that's actually interesting. Huh. When they announced the new voice actors, they said that those voice actors would only be playing the characters in remake, and they were keeping the compilation voice actors for all the other projects.
Right.
Which would imply that they would, if now Square don't voice their phone games in English,
They don't.
Yes,
They don't.
yes. Oh wait, hold on. First off, before you continue, we just wanted to make it clear. This is mobile only.
At the minute, yeah.
Yeah. Continue.
And they don't typically voice those in English. So, but if they are bringing it to Switch, and consoles and stuff like that, they very well might. That's so interesting. That's actually a really interesting thing to think which they could go for.
Yeah, so they might bring back, Steve Burton and the rest of the classic crew and George Newbern and stuff.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Now Nomura did. He was asked about voice acting for this, and he said they're still unsure about what they're going to do with it, because at the minute he's involved in so many projects, which we might need to get to and talk about after this, because there is another bit of news about Remake Part 2. But because he's involved in so many titles, he's kind of stuck where he doesn't know if he really has time to go and supervise a voiceover session, because I said actually before we were recording, the recording process for Square Enix is all of the Japanese developers are on the phone listening in to like English dubs and stuff, and they're always deliberating, and they're there for the Japanese recordings as well, of course. But he said they're trying to figure out how to avoid using new voice recordings, but because it's going to use the older compilation titles, I suppose they already kind of have some voice clips, so they're debating whether to not have voice acting or to just have it for like battles. They think it's going to be at a minimum, but I mean, we'll see. The way I'm kind of looking at it is it's going to be a cool way. Well, if it's good, it might be like a cool way to revisit the entire saga of FF7, of like all of the titles, Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core, even the fact that Advent Children's that's so cool to me as well. It's like
that's a cool thing. So they're gonna make the events of Advent Children completely playable. So Cloud battling Laws and Kadaj and the other.
That would be cool. Very cool.
And then fighting Sin Bahamut, and then fighting Sephiroth at the end. All of that you'll be able to play in turn-based.
In turn-based as well, which is I don't know. I think it's. If they deliver what they're promising, I think it could be really cool.
It has potential for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about like the release dates. There's no release dates for any of these yet, right?
Well, for Intergrade, June 10th, I think.
Which is relatively
June.
Relatively soon.
Yeah. For the First Soldier, they've said that's coming out this year. And for Ever Crisis, they've said 2022. So that's kind of our release dates.
All right, guys, that pretty much concludes this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Definitely give us a like. Let us know your opinions. Are you guys excited? Press that like. Let us know. And we'll see you in the next video.
Just punch the like button.
Yeah, and don't forget to check out. Don't forget to check out Chris's channel too. We'll put the link down in the description.
Yep, and also part 1 as well. Definitely, if you're watching this, definitely check out part 1 of our little series here in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Peace out. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed our content, you can support us by liking and subscribing. And feel free to leave a comment down below. See you guys in the next video. Naoki, don't fuck this up, right? We're calling you out right now. Studley boys are calling you out. Don't fuck this up.